In terms of the Dajjal, real quick in review, what are some of the characteristics of the Dajjal? Yes.
He's human?
He's human, yes, from the children of Adam.
Perform like miracles?
He will be given the ability to perform miracles, to the point where it will be the greatest fitna the earth has ever seen. Right? The greatest calamity the earth has ever seen. Yes.
He's deformed?
He is deformity. Right? Some say that he is one-eyed and your Lord is not one-eyed. What else? It will be written kafara on his forehead. The believers will be able to read that. There's different narrations. He will be given the appearance of strength, though, like stockiness. Some say that he was, on the short. Some say that he was actually on the medium or taller side. So, Allahu A'lam. Yes.
So, would he have somewhat of an appearance that matches, like ʿIsa or anything like that? Like some type, not like in terms of like maybe like hair and like skin tone.
Not necessarily. Some say he will have like a lighter complexion, a rosy complexion, like ʿIsa alayhi salam.
Yeah.
But he will have deformities, which shows that he's not ʿIsa alayhi salam. But the extent of the, like powers he's given will give him like, that's what will be the trial of tribulation.
What will be the physical appearance?
No, the physical appearance, like rationally we would think that like he's deformed or kind of like maybe ugly looking or something like that. So why would we think of him as a god or something? But then, sometimes with the nafs and the fitna, the aqd goes out the window, right? Like to this day, if you go to certain countries, they're worshipping some of the most disgusting things. So, it's, subhanAllah. So imagine, and those things can't even do anything. They're statues that they built with their own hands, and sometimes it goes to the point of, I don't want to get into the details, but very lowly, disgusting things, right? So imagine when someone comes that can actually cause terrain or cause drought or cause, death and bring to life, etc. So it's a great. That's why it's one of considered the greatest fatna that every single prophet warned about, and the Prophet said that he's the final messenger, so he will come to our ummah. Like, what are ways to protect yourselves from the Dajjal? The first 10 ayats of Surah Al-Kahf, and some say the last 10, or some say both, or the whole surah if you can memorize, inshaAllah, or recite them often. What else?
You lock yourself in the house?
Yeah, you can lock yourself in the house, lock your family in the house. Like some Sahaba will do that, actually. Some people at the time, when it comes, will do that. Some Sahaba narrated that narration about the Prophet saying that, the mu'min will fear for us, so much so that they will chain them up so they won't be tempted by the Dajjal. What else?
You can make hijrah to Medina.
Hijrah to Mecca or Medina. Yes. Because those cities are protected from the Dajjal.
But even that isn't like certain African or then like.
Yeah, so this is for the believers. If the hypocrites, these places won't give them protection in the sense that the Prophet said that it will expel, there will be like some type of like shaking of the earth, and they will expel the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, and they will go out and they will become followers of the Dajjal, right? So the Medina will take out the impurities, subhanAllah.
Yeah. So like this means like it's not enough like to do like maybe the physical stuff. You must also like make
Do the
sure
spiritual.
that
Yeah. So like the other thing I was going to mention that we should know is the dua that we make every salah, right? Seeking refuge in Allah from the Dajjal, the curse of the Dajjal. And like the brother said, spiritual fortification, right? The closer you are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the stronger, you will be in the face of adversity or the face of calamity. The weak Muslims, unfortunately many of them will succumb to their desires and fall to the trap of the Dajjal. So the stronger iman you have, inshallah, the stronger the chances of you not following or succumbing to his temptations. Yes?
So how is the fitna, like, wouldn't it, like, reaffirm your belief in Allah even more?
Yeah, if you're from the believers, but, you can imagine the fitna, for example, of the attraction of the opposite sex, like for a man and a woman. The Prophet said to beware of being alone with the opposite sex in a room, because the third is the shaitan, right? Meaning also that the temptation is very high. So this is just like a small example. So how many people succumb to those desires of drinking alcohol or falling into illegitimate relationships, or these are like, temptations that could be avoided somewhat. So imagine when something is a greater temptation than all of that. So even some believers, or people that are not firm in their faith, might fall for those temptations. Yes. Yes, the repentance is still up until we would hopefully talk about today, the rising of the sun from the west, or the coming of the beast, the dab. Yes.
Why also the fact that the fact that I think by that time period, lies would become more prominent than truth. Like we're already programmed to see the truth as not as important as a lie.
Yeah, it could be also, that people are far. I think there's going to be like two camps, though. I think there's going to be people that are very strong and firm upon the religion. Those are that, that, for example, passed the test and followed the Mahdi, and like the Prophet said, that special army, the third, they'll be like the best of humanity, right, standing for justice, fighting. It's going to be like lots of wars and stuff like that, internal wars between the Muslims, and then finally, a united Muslim ummah, and then external wars. So the Muslims, inshallah, that are strong and upon the deen, we're going to be firm and okay. And the ones that are weak, then we know, for example, that same army, third of them, they turn their backs, and they are the worst of, the people. So, there's ranks and levels in Iman. And the more your Iman is, inshallah, the stronger you'll be protected. So, after we said that Isa alayhi salam, when the Muslims are preparing that moment, and they know that basically, it's a very difficult moment because they're being besieged, and a huge army that the Dajjal has built up to attack them. And at that time, while they're having the salah, some say that they've already started the salah, some say that they made the iqamah for the salah, and Isa alayhi salam, he will come down with his hands upon the wings of two angels. They will bring him down under al-Minarat al-Bayda, in the white minaret, which some say is like the Umayyi Masjid in Syria, subhanallah. And he will come at the time of the iqamah, and the Imam, most likely the Imam Mahdi, will say, to put him forward to lead, and he will say, like, no, you lead. I have come to be, basically a follower of the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Isa, he's special in his creation, right? His story, subhanAllah, starts even before his mother was born, because his grandmother made dua for his mother and for him to come. When she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect her daughter, or her offspring, she didn't know what it was going to be, and the offspring after that. So it's the importance of the dua of the parents for their offspring, not only for your kids, inshallah, but for your grandkids and great grandkids, your dhurriya, making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making from the Saliheen. So his grandmother made dua for him, subhanAllah, and then of course his mother, who was raised in the upbringing of obedience to Allah, made dua, starting from the time that she was given the tidings of Isa. She was raised about Maryam عليه السلام. كلما دخل عليها زكريا المحراب وجد عندها رزقا قال يا مريم أن لك هذا قالت هو من عند الله إن الله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. So when she was growing up, she was under the care of the Prophet Zakaria, subhanAllah, right? And he would find, she was one of the only females to be dedicated for the worship of Allah, because her mother promised that whatever which she was given by Allah, she wanted to dedicate him, she thought it was going to be a boy, to the service of Allah. And it came a girl, but subhanAllah, she wanted to fulfill her oath, so she put Maryam alayhi salam to be devoted to worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. And from the miracles that Zakaria, he would find with her, some narrations say that, she would barely leave out of worshipping Allah, and he would find the sustenance from Allah, the fruits of the winter time in the summertime, and the fruits of the summertime in the winter time, given to Maryam. And it was known that she was extensive in her worship and taqwa. And look how she attributed this rizq to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? huwa min indillah, it's from Allah, right? This, when Zakaria was seeing this miracle, he asked, how did you get this? And she said, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it shows a deep connection between Maryam's mother and then Maryam herself, the family of Imran in general, and now building up for the coming of Isa. When she, Maryam herself also with قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله اصطفاك وطهرك واصطفاك على النساء العالمين يا مريم أقنتي لربك واسجدي واركعي مع الراكعين. The angels, they said to Maryam that verily Allah has chosen you and purified you and chosen you above the women of the world, right? We know that the best of women are who? You know this one right now, Maryam, Khadija, Asya, the wife of Fir'aun, and Fatima. In some narrations, Aisha, right? So these are the best. For Maryam, subhanAllah, was one of the best of all humanity in terms of the women. And she was given, these glad tidings actually from the angels. And she was given the title of her son, Isa alayhi salam. The story is when the angel came to her in the form of a man and she was scared. فَتَبَثَّ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا قَالَتْ إِنِّي أَعُوذُ بِالرَّحْمَنِ مِنْكَ إِن كُنْتَ تَقِيًّا. Right. So the angel appeared in the form of a man before her, and she said, I seek refuge in the most merciful Rahman from you, right? If you have some type of taqwa, some type of fear Allah, she doesn't talk to the men, she doesn't mix with the men, she's devoted to worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then this man appears to her and she's worried, but she seeks refuge with Ar-Rahman, right? Kind of appealing to his sympathy, because Ar-Rahman is the one who has mercy. So basically she's saying show me some mercy, be kind, have fear of Allah, right? And then the angel responded, قال إنما أنا رسول ربك لأهبك غلاما زكيا. I am verily just a messenger from your Lord to give you the glad tidings of a righteous son. قالت أن يكون لي غلام. How can I have a boy or a child, right? لم يمسسني بشر ولم أكن بغيا. And no man has ever touched me, and I am not from the unchaste. قال كذلك قال ربك إن هو علي هين. It's as your Lord has said, and it is easy for him, right? هو على هين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to do all things. وَنَجْعَلُهُ آيَةً لِلنَّاسِ. And we will make him a sign for the people. So this is the beginning of the creation of Isa alayhi salam. And the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this shows the miracle of Allah, right? So how is the creation of Isa special? With the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he had no father, right? So when you talk to people to give dawah, sometimes you can say Allah, he shows his perfection in creation, and he can create as he wills, however he wills. So Adam alayhi salam, he had no father, no mother, right? And then Hawa, she was created from Adam, from the man, from the male, right? And then Isa, he was created from the female. He had a mother, no father. And then everybody else, we came from mother and father, male and female. So all four types of creation Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made, right? And we know the story that, when he was born, she gave birth to him in much suffering, obviously, because she is, a chaste woman, never been with any man, and she had to give birth by herself, basically. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told her to go and to stay away from the people and to give birth. Some tafsir, they say فَنَادَاهَا مِن تَحْتِهَا أَلَّا تَحْزَنِي قَدْ جَعَلَ رَبُّكِ تَحْتَكِ سَرِيًّا. Some say that Isa alayhi salam was speaking to Maryam, saying, do not be grieved, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a river or a stream for you underneath. وَهُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْعِ نَخْلَةِ تُسَاقِطْ عَلَيْكِ رُطَبًا جَنِيًّا. And to shake the date palm tree so that some fresh dates can come upon you. فَكُلِي وَاشْرَبِي وَقَرِّ عَيْنًا. And then eat and drink and be glad. فَإِمَّا تُرِيَنَّ مِنَ الْبَشْرِ أَحَدًا فَقُولِي إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا فَلَنْ أُكَلِّمَ الْيَوْمَ إِنْسِيًّا. And if you see anybody from the people, say that I have vowed to Allah to take a fast of silence, right? And so just a brief point of this ayat, the miracle of a child speaking from the cradle, and Isa one of the few babies that spoke. Yes, some say it's Jibreel alayhi salam, and some say it's Isa. So, but it's purported that he, and then, which we'll find soon, is that he does speak from the cradle, right? When he says, "Inni Abdullahi atani al-kitab wa ja'alani nabiyya." But anyways, that's a miracle. But also the concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala providing for us, but having to put the effort into it, right? Because in this case, for example, Maryam, Allah could have just provided her, like He provided her with Zakaria, right? With the food from the summertime in the winter, and the food of the wintertime in the summer. But He told her to shake the palm tree for the sustenance to come, to teach us a lesson that you have to put the effort in sometimes, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of you, right? Because the palm tree is very big, like a human being is not going to be able to shake it. But even with that, she was commanded to do so, to put the effort into something, then Allah will take care of you. Then, when she came, فَأَتَتْ بِهِ قَوْمَهَا تَحْمِلُ, she went to her people carrying him. قالوا يا مريم قد جئت شيئا فريا يا أخت هارون ما كان أبوك امرأة سوء وما كانت أمك بغيا. She brought him, the baby to her people carrying him, right? And they said, "Oh Maryam, you have brought this, this is something big, like what happened? How did you become pregnant? Why are you bringing a baby? You weren't married, etc., etc." And she said, and they said, "Oh sister of Harun, your father was not a bad man, and your mother was not unchaste either." So basically trying to falsely accuse her, right? And she couldn't speak because she took a vow of silence. فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ, so she pointed to Isa alayhi salam. And they said, كيف نكلم من كان في المهد صبيا? How can we speak to somebody who is still a baby in the cradle, basically? And then Isa, he speaks. قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا وجعلني مباركا أينما كنت وأوصاني بالصلاة والزكاة ما دمت حيا. He said, verily I am the slave of Allah. He has given me the scripture and made me a prophet. And He's made me blessed wherever I be, and has enjoined upon me the salah and the zakat as long as I live. Right? So this is like the introduction to Isa alayhi salam, and we know that Isa, yes. No, just the family of Imran, not that same Harun of Musa's, because Isa the family of Isa came way later. Yeah. But it could be drawn also association to the descendants of Harun, or it could be a particular family member named Harun. So this is the miraculous creation of Isa alayhi salam. From the beginning, he's special, and he lived a life of miracles. At the time, the greatest thing was the medicine, right? So each prophet was given a certain miracle to fit the people that he's going to. So Musa alayhi salam, what was the popular thing at his time? Magic, right? Sihr. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the powers to disprove the sihr. At the time of Isa, it was medicine. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the powers to heal the lepers, to give sight to the blind. Even, the greatest miracle in medicine is to bring the life, the dead back to life, right? So Isa was given these powers by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? To prove to the people that he is a Nabi and a Rasul. But even with that, they rejected him and they tried to kill him. The Jewish people, they were waiting for the Messiah. They still are waiting for their so-called Messiah, but they see him more as like a king and a ruler and one of power, right? To raise them up and defeat their enemies, in a sense. But Isa, when he came, he was teaching tazkiyah and purification and staying away from the corruption and not being, so much into the dunya, etc. So they didn't like this message, and they tried to either kill him or get him killed. Yes?
Do Jews reject Jesus, Isa?
Yes. The Isa that we believe in?
Yeah.
Yes.
As like a prophet?
They reject him not only as a prophet, but even as a decent human being, astaghfirullah. Like if you read their the scriptures and their statements, it says that he is, I don't even want to repeat the stuff they called him and his mother, like very bad stuff. And they say that he's أعوذ بالله من ذلك, burning in excrement in the hellfire right now, like, أعوذ بالله. So, and then, people ask, so why did the Christians support so much, right? Because subhanAllah, the certain fundamentalist Christian groups, they believe that for the coming of the return of Isa, what we believe in Jesus, that the state of Israel, or Israel has to be, the kingdom of Israel has to be rebuilt, right? So even though I think some of them know these things, but they are using the Jewish people to rebuild in order for Isa to come back, and then the Jewish people are using them to help them rebuild for what they're getting their king to come back. And that's why subhanAllah, the miracle of Isa coming back, Allah chose Isa because it answers all these questions, right? This is the main dispute between the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims. So when Isa comes back, there will be no excuse. Yes.
So how, like, in light of what's going on, how do we really, like, understand the coming back of the Islam and the Dajjal, like, king, the idea of maybe the king?
I mean, if we do it like hypothetically speaking, we can say that there will be the Mahdi, and then the Dajjal, it might be taken, he might fool the Jewish people to make them think that he is the Messiah or the king that they're waiting for. That's why most of his followers will be the Jewish people, right? And then Isa will come to clarify what is the truth. But we don't know when this is going to happen. Obviously, there's certain things that we still are waiting for also. And then if it's the Mahdi coming first, we know that we believe that the Mahdi will come first before these things. So if we are around at that time and we're Muslims, inshallah, we will follow that path, the right path. It could be, yeah. SubhanAllah. Yeah, they do, yeah. I mean, some, they're taught, like, that Jesus is, like, I've seen certain rabbis and stuff like that speak very harshly about Isa ﷺ and Maryam, so they're brainwashed, or they're taught from propaganda that this was like the false Messiah and the real Messiah is still coming, so they actually believe it. So when he does come, it could be they're fooled by the Dajjal, right? And some, like he said, they don't care, they'll follow anyways, because some of them, they don't really have a true faith anymore, unfortunately. And it's interesting that, like, you'll find the greatest thinkers of the Jewish, faith, they actually come from the Muslim lands. They were the most persecuted by the Christians, and the Muslims always gave them like a safe haven, like in Spain, after Spain, when they got expelled from Spain, they took them into Morocco, into Yemen, into Iraq, right? Some of their great philosophers and thinkers, they all were flourishing in Muslim land. They wrote their best works in Muslim lands, which is kind of ironic, subhanAllah, seeing what's going on, especially today. So Isa alayhi salam, he lived a miraculous life, he performed miracles, and they, as I said, tried to kill him, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saved him from that, right? وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ مَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُم. They didn't kill him, they did not crucify him, but it was someone to be made to look like Isa alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him up into heaven. So the difference between him and the other anbiya is that the other anbiya are in the barzakh, right? And their souls are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're in the transitory stage. But Isa alayhi salam, he's still alive, right? He hasn't completed his life. Yes. Human body, so body and soul. So he's still alive. That's the difference between him and the other anbiya. And good question, mashallah. And so he will come back in his same form, like we said, at this time, to defeat and destroy the Dajjal. And there's many ayat about this, subhanAllah, that clarifies it, because there was a point of contention from the people of the book, confused about Isa alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it very clear in the book of Allah, about his life and about his death to save them from these confusions. And when he comes back, it says that he will, in some narrations, break the cross and kill the pig and will not accept jizya. So basically, it's most befitting for the one to come back as ʿIsa, because that's where the confusion is between the greatest of the monotheistic religions, right? And so when he comes back, there's no excuse anymore, and you have to follow him. He won't accept anything else. He won't accept jizya. Breaking the cross, meaning this concept of him being crucified will be clarified. He was not crucified. Allah saved him. Not eating the pork, which is something that's in the books of their own books in the Torah, and also even some narrations in the Gospel, they aren't supposed to eat pork. He will clarify that, right? And then the jizya, the tax that the non-Muslims pay to the Muslims under occupation, will not be accepted anymore. So it's either you believe or you don't, and then it's battle, right? So then there will be some final conflict basically, and then there will be, some say, like a period of peace and prosperity that hasn't been upon the earth before, and some say this will happen after Juj and Ma'juj. So we will go from Isa alayhi salam until his physical description, he's like also of average height. SubhanAllah, most of the Anbiya are average height, not too tall, not too short, but a good height, decent height. He has light skin. So when they say ahmar, like reddish white, like means he's very light skinned. He has a broad chest, and his hair, it looks like it's dripping oil or water, beautiful, shining, even though it's not wet. And it says that he will have a beautiful demeanor. Most of, like we said, the prophets, they come in the most beautiful form of the people that they come to give the message to, right? So he'll be looking very beautiful, obviously. And then some say also, this is a side point, we'll get to it when we talk about his death, but some narrations indicate that he will be buried next to the Prophet ﷺ. He will live his life and die and then be buried. But he will be buried, some say, there's a hadith, but the hadith is not so authentic, but there's a narration by Abdullah ibn Salam, who was one of the scholars of the Jewish people when he became Muslim, and he said that the Prophet ﷺ Isa will be buried next to his brother, the Prophet ﷺ, and that there's a place in the Hijrah right now waiting for Isa alayhi salam, still there, subhanallah. Wallahu a'lam. When he comes, there will be so much prosperity, that people, one sheep can feed the whole village, and one roman, pomegranate, can feed the whole tribe, right? And there's going to be no fighting anymore, and there's going to be even the snakes won't, like a young girl can hold a snake and not be stung by the snake, and there's going to be no resentment or grudges, no more wars and stuff like that. But like I said, most likely this is going to be coming after Ya'juj and Ma'juj, and we'll explain why, inshallah. But what's that? Because if it was before then, there's still going to be wars with Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So, Allahu A'lam. And also, everything is not, like I said, in the signs of the Day of Judgment, it's kind of interpretations from different scholars. Like nobody can say 100% sure it's going to be this, right? It's just like estimations. One narration says that even the poisonous creatures will lose their venom, subhanAllah. And the skies will send down the rain, and the earth will be full of produce and blessings. And even the lions will graze with the cattle and not harm them. And then in some narrations say that he will be here for 40 years. The Prophet said that, the Anbiya are brothers from a different mother, right? Their mothers are different, but their religion is one. So I am the closest to Isa ibn Maryam, because there's no prophet between me and him. And he will stay upon the earth for 40 years, then he will die, and the Muslims will offer the funeral prayer upon him. Also, some narrations say that he will make Hajj, that Isa alayhi will be performing Hajj. So the Muslims are going to go perform Hajj at that time as well with him. And he will be ruling the Muslim Ummah also, and bring the concept of complete fairness and justice upon earth. The third sign, or the third major sign, is Ya'juj wa Ma'juj, right? Gog and Magog. These concepts also, like I said, they're shared between the Muslims and the Christians and the Jews in a sense, right? So the Ya'juj and Ma'juj is also mentioned in the Quran. And Surah Al-Kahf specifically, we find the story of Dhul Qarnayn, right, who was a righteous ruler who actually stopped their mischief, and he built a fortress basically to confine them and keep them from causing mischief upon the earth. Dhul Qarnayn was one of the kings that was given dominion upon the east and the west of the earth, one of the great kings. So Sulaiman and Dhul Qarnayn were the two Muslim kings that ruled the earth, and Nimrod and who was the other? There's two Muslim kings that were given authority over the earth and two non-Muslims. So the Muslims, Sulaiman and Dhul Qarnayn, and the other non-Muslims are Nimrod, and the other was, what is it? Nebuchadnezzar, right? Not Nebuchadnezzar. Is it Nebuchadnezzar? Yeah. What's the English for that? No. What is it? Anyways, so Dhul Qarnayn was the one who basically حتى إذا بلغ بين السدين وجد عند قوم, he came to this, between the two mountains, and he found these people that the people complained about them, that they're causing havoc upon the earth and destroying the crops and killing and causing mischief, etc. So he said, he will confine them, and he built, an iron containment mountain basically to hold them back. They're also, in English, Gog and Magog, right? They're also human beings though. Some people, they have, interpretations saying that they're like some type of special creatures that are different, but no, they are also from the children of Adam. It's just a certain tribe, and they will be great and vast in number. Some narrations indicate that for every one person that passes away, there will be 1,000 to replace him, right? So how we're having in a population decline around the earth in many countries, they don't have enough, when the person passes away, they don't have enough population to replace that person, right? So they decline in many countries. Ya'juj and Ma'juj has 1,000 to replace that one. So imagine their numbers, how they grow so fast. Yeah, so according to some narrations, they're currently alive, and they're constantly trying to get out of this barrier that Dhul Qarnayn has put them in or confined them in. And they dig every day, and then they say we'll come back and open it the next day. They'll be so close, but it'll get closed again until they say inshaAllah, and then that day they will open it and they will start to escape from there, and then the mischief upon the earth will come. And the Prophet said, وَيْلَ لِلْعَرَبِ لِلشَّرِّ مَا اقْتَرَبَ, be woe be to the Arabs for the evil that is about to come upon them, talking about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Yes. Some narrations say that they have broad faces and beady eyes or small eyes. They have reddish black hair, and the name Juj Ma'juj has the meaning or connotation of like rushing forward, right? Being great in number and also for rushing forward. And they will have both of these. They will come from like, every hill, and as they come out, subhanAllah, like if they go upon a lake or a river, the first group of them to pass it will drink the whole river dry, right? That's how many they are. And no army will be able to stand in their way. They will kill everything in their path, basically, to the point that, from their arrogance and their haughtiness, once they've defeated most of the people of the earth, they will start shooting arrows into the heavens, saying to each other that now that we defeated the people of the earth, we will defeat the people of the heavens. And they start throwing the arrows into the skies, right? At this time, the believers, they will go with Isa alayhi salam to like a mountain pass, and they won't be able to defeat them, right? In this place, Isa starts to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help, and what happens? Anybody know? Not necessarily angels. Close. No, the arrows come out with blood, subhanAllah, but the defeat will come at the tiny worms that the birds will deliver to their necks. They will come and hit their necks and it will kill them, subhanAllah. And it's like befitting, because these things that were the most arrogant and most powerful army upon the earth will get defeated by something so tiny and so small, right? A worm. And the Isa alayhi salam, he will ask one of his companions to go, and people will be very scared obviously at the time. Not people want to volunteer, but one of the companions will volunteer to go and check and see what is happening with them. And when he goes down from the mountain, he sees that they have been killed and slaughtered, but it's so many of them that their stench is like, disgusting and like filling the earth with a bad smell of decay. So Isa will make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, removes them, and Allah removes them in a special way, and then He sends down water from the heaven to cleanse the earth. And that's why I say, like, according to some interpretations, the time of peace will happen after that, because you think about the Muslims, they've been through a lot at that time. Like, they've been through so many wars and tribulations, and then the ones that live with the Mahdi, for example, and then through the fitna of the Dajjal, and then the fitna of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, suffering, starving sometimes, so much fitna. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them the gift of patience that they deserve in the dunya. This is also a sign for us, for the believers, in the akhir, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give us when we are patient and persevere, right? No matter what the test is, if you persevere, Allah will give you so much greater in Jannah. But just the inkling of it, in the dunya, after suffering so much, then they get this time period of peace and tranquility and prosperity, and no more wars and no more hunger, and just ease, basically, I guess. So that's why, according to some interpretations, it's after the time of Juj and Majuj. They are killable because they're human beings, but it's going to be very tough to kill them because of their numbers, right? I mean, you can imagine.
We have so much.
What's that?
We have so much.
We have so much what? But you don't know what's going to happen towards the end. And then even if you have, the most advanced weapon systems, if an army overtakes you, there's nothing you can do. Once the army enters your land and overtakes the land, it's very difficult to get rid of them, even if you have high technology. So they won't be able to. Yes.
Aren't we going to go back to fighting with swords because of the weapons used?
Yeah. So there's the different narrations seems to be that the Prophet ﷺ is talking about being back on horses and fighting with bows and arrows and swords and stuff like that. So the general consensus is that we take it at face value, So we don't know what's going to happen. It could be something so simple as one of those electromagnetic waves that wipes out, technology, or oil cease to be produced, or nuclear bomb, or whatever. It could easily go back to how it was in the past. And some others interpret it saying that that was a language of the time the Prophet ﷺ was communicating to the Sahaba with, because they wouldn't understand, tanks and airplanes and jets, etc., etc. Wallahu a'lam,
You say that the Hadith is like it's human, right?
They are human, yes.
Getting old and die, and then the offspring.
They keep giving offspring, yeah, but they're.
One is died, I think
They die, but when one of them dies, they say like 1,000 replaces him. So his offspring is like, there's some. It's a weak hadith, but I think it says like Allah created like the umams into like 10 and 9/10 of the is the malaika, the angels, and then from the 1/10 that is left, 9/10 of the 1/10 is Juju Ma'juj. But that hadith is weak. But there's an authentic hadith that says that, Yawm al-Qiyamah, that for every one person that goes to Jannah, 999 will go to the hellfire. And the Sahaba were very scared about that. But the Prophet ﷺ, to comfort them, said that they will be the majority of, Juj wa Ma'juj. Most of them will take that number. So it shows that they're very vast in numbers. Some say like 400,000 tribes of Juj wa Ma'juj, and each tribe is like several 100,000. Yes. Allah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Basically, Juj Majuj is each nation is 400,000 nations, of whom no man dies until he has seen 1,000 males from his offspring. Each one of them will be carrying a weapon. Subhanallah. They're present, yeah. We just don't see them right now. They haven't gone out yet. I mean, Allahu A'lam, but there's not, the narrations and even the ayat kind of point to us that they are still around. We just don't see them. There's a lot of things that are hidden from human beings, subhanAllah, that we don't know. Even, I forget how many, but there's so many islands, even to this day, that has not been explored yet, right? And also there's so many like places in the water that still has not been explored yet. So, this is just the dunya. Imagine, we don't even know, like all this time that our humans have been on earth, we don't know the whole dunya yet, subhanAllah. So there could be many places that have passed, There's species of fish, there's new species of animals, subhanAllah. The dinosaurs, for example, we don't even know what happened to them, So Allah creates whom He wills and how He wills, And then the time concept is something created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so He can allow people to live. For example, in the past they used to live a lot longer, for hundreds of years sometimes. So it's relative. In this narration it says that they do not pass by any type of animal, even an elephant or a beast or a camel or a pig, except that they will eat it, all of it. And if one of them dies, they will eat him. So they're vicious, subhanAllah. Cannibal, what do you call them? Cannibal, looks like. You can imagine in their army, when they're coming, their vanguard will be in Syria, and the rear guard will be in Khorasan, which is like Afghanistan. That's how big their army is, subhanAllah. And they will drink, the rivers. The Lake Tiberias will be finished when they pass through it. They will drink the whole river, the whole lake, which is like almost the ocean when you look at it. And like I said, most people will not be able to take them until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that destroys them. And this thing of like the Great Wall of China and etc. So that it's not, we don't know, like we can't say for sure, obviously. And if it was, then I'm sure some people discovered it by now. So I don't think that's the correct interpretation. What's that? Oh yeah, yes, because some people say it's the Great Wall of China and it's like the Chinese and stuff like that, but that's not correct. Yeah, that's not.
There was a Christian evangelist, I think, evangelist, what do you call him?
Yes.
He said that the Muslims would be that would come down from like Russia.
They would come from Russia? Allah. But that's, some of those Arctic mountains and stuff like that have not been, yeah. So, yeah. It's something from Allah's knowledge, but it's something we believe in because it's mentioned in the Quran and in the Mutawatir Hadith. All these major signs have been mentioned in, either the Quran or in the authentic Hadith. So we have Dajjal, ʿIsa alayhi salam, Juj and Ma'juj, and then the three, easy to remember, is going to be like three landslides. One in the west, one in the east, and one in the Arabian Peninsula. Earthquake/landslide. It's mentioned, so it's something that's cataclysmic. It's not something that's like a normal earthquake or something like that, but something that's like a life-changing cosmological changing incident that the earth, something vastly different is happening. These preliminary signs, they're the major signs. However, it's like more for the human experience. But now these signs that I'm mentioning now is going to be more like for the kind of like cosmic experiences. So these great earthquakes, 1, 2, 3, that's 6 signs now for the Day of Judgment, right? Each one is considered a separate sign. One in the east, one in the west, and one in the Arabian Peninsula. There's different hadith for each of the different landslides. We won't really get into that, but just know that there's going to be huge, landslides that change the landscape basically, and earthquakes. The other one is the smoke, dukhan. فارتقب يوم تأتي السماء بدخان مبين يغشى الناس هذا عذاب أليم ربنا اكشف عنا العذاب إنا مؤمنون أن له ذكرى وقد جاءهم رسول مبين. So Allah says to wait for the day when the sky will be brought forth like a visible smoke covering the people, and this is a painful torment they will say, "Oh our Lord, remove this torment from us, really we shall be believers." And then how can there be for them a warning when the messenger has already come to them, already explained to them, right? Basically there's no excuse now. Why are you trying to believe now when the messengers have already come to you? So the smoke, it says that will cover the whole earth according to some narrations. And it says, there's like some opinion that said the smoke already came, but we don't think that is the stronger opinion because it's more likely the final of the sign, like towards the end of the time science, not the one that happened at the time of Quraysh, right? So it's still expected to come. And there's a narration by Ibn Mas'ud, he said that 5 things have come to pass. So some Sahaba, they did consider the smoke that happened at the time to be that smoke. When he said that the 5 things that, have come already is the defeat of the Romans and the splitting of the moon and the smoke are amongst the signs that he mentioned, right? But the majority of the companions and the scholars say that no, the smoke hasn't come yet, because that was like an isolated incident, but this smoke that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about is going to be like all over the earth. And then the Prophet said that, the companions were debating about the signs to come, and the Prophet saw them worried and scared, and he said, don't worry, it won't come until the Dajjal and the 10 signs he mentioned. From those 10 signs, the Dajjal, the Ya'juj and Ma'juj, the ʿIsa alayhi salam, the smoke, the 3 earthquakes, the rising of the sun, and the beast. So he said, as long as these haven't come, meaning it's not coming until towards the end of time. And then the Prophet said to hasten to do good deeds before you see these signs. Right? He mentioned from the signs, he mentioned the smoke. So most of the scholars say that the smoke hasn't come yet. The other one is the coming of the beast, the dabba. Yes.
About the smoke, something about it would gather the people.
No, that's the fire. So there's going to be a fire as well. The fire is basically like the last sign. The rising of the sun from the west, or the beast. Some say the rising of the sun is first. Some say the beast is first. The beast is also mentioned in the Quran. وإذا وقع القول عليهم أخرجنا لهم دابة من الأرض تكلمهم أن الناس كانوا بآياتنا لا يوقنون. When the word is fulfilled against them, we shall bring forth from the earth a beast that will speak to them, because mankind did not believe with certainty in our ayat, right, in the Quran or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this beast will speak to the people. It's a real beast. It will come from the earth. Even in the Christian theology also they believe in the concept of the beast, right, the dabba. But their beast is something that's like, they say they have like a beast from the sea and a beast from the earth. And it's like a very scary description according to them. Wallahu a'lam. Yes? They will be able to enter. They don't have that same like prohibition of entering in, so they will pass through most of the places of the earth. Some say that this dabba will come out from the outskirts of Mecca. Subhanallah. Some narrations say that he will mark the believers from the disbelievers, right? And then some say, the ones that say that he comes before the rising of the sun, he will mark the believers from the disbelievers. And the ones that say that he comes after the rising of the sun, he will just mark the people in terms of like kind of a punishment for them. Like a branding, basically. And then the rising of the sun from the west, it's not mentioned specifically in the Quran, except some, derive it indirectly when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هَلْ يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَّا أَن تَأْتِيهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَوْ يَأْتِيَ رَبُّكَ أَوْ يَأْتِيَ بَعْضُ آيَاتِ رَبِّكَ يَوْمَ يَأْتِي بَعْضُ آيَاتِ رَبِّكَ لَا يَنْفَعُ نَاسًا إِيمَانُهَا لَمْ تَكُنْ آمَنَتْ مِنْ قَبْلُ أَوْ كَسَبَتْ فِي إِيمَانِهَا خَيْرًا قُلْ انْتَظِرُوا إِنَّا مُنْتَظِرُونَ. Allah says, do they think, or they will wait for anything other than the angels to come to them, and their Lord to come, and the signs of your Lord to come? That day, the signs of your Lord, when they come, it will do a person no good to believe in that time, right? I mean, it's too late. So some interpret this verse as meaning the rising of the sun from the west, because the Prophet said that Tawbah will be accepted as long as you do it before you die or before the sun rises from the west. In terms of the sun rising from the west, it's an interesting scientific fact that the rotation of the earth is getting longer and longer. Like it used to be like 4 hours, I think, something like that, to go, right? The day was only like 4 hours, and then it's grown to now it's 24 hours. So some scientists say that it will continue to slow down till it actually stops, and then it will start going the other way, right? And there's another hadith that says that when the sun, before the sun rises from the west, it will be like 2 nights back to back. So according to the scientific theory, that the earth slows down to almost a stopping standstill, which kind of coincides with this, and then it starts turning. So that subhanAllah could be the rising of the sun from the west. The narration says that a person will get up to pray Qiyam al-Layl, right? And then he will go to rest and get up. Usually when he gets up against Fajr time, but he sees that it's still dark, so he prays some more. And then more, and then the sun doesn't come, and they're very terrified and scared what's going on. This happens for 2 days, and then the sun rises from the west, right? So subhanAllah, even scientifically, the theory kind of coincides with the Islamic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The importance also, like we said, that belief and tawbah won't be accepted once it happens because there's no excuse. And then finally, the final of the major signs is the great fire that will drive the people to the gathering place in Sham to get ready for the Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? At this time also, according to some narrations, only the worst of the worst will be left upon the earth. The Quran will be lifted up. Nobody will know about worshipping Allah. People will go back to the shirk and idolatry, and that's when the Qiyamah will happen. The trumpet will be blown and khalas. It says the fire will emerge before the Day of Judgment from the sea of Hadr al-Maut, like from the Yemen, and it will gather the people. And the Sahaba asked him, "What do you instruct us to do?" He said, "Go to Syria." This is, like I said, there's different explanations about this hadith, but some say that at the time of the fire, there's not going to be any more believers, and some say that there might be just like tiny groups of believers left, and that's why the dab will like mark some believers from disbelievers, but the vast majority of the earth will be disbelievers. The other thing I forgot to mention is that after a certain time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send the wind to take the soul of all the believers, right? And it will become like a cool, comforting wind, and people will die peacefully. The Muslims will die peacefully, and then after that, who knows, is generation or more, there will be just like the worst of the worst left upon the earth, and that's when the Qiyamah will happen. So those are the 10 major signs that the Prophet told us about, in addition to the minor signs that will lead up to the great event, which is the Qiyamah, right? The blowing of the trumpet. Inshallah, next week we'll discuss that. It'll be Yawm al-Qiyamah itself, what happens leading up, to the judgment day, the judgment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then afterwards Jannah and Nar, or Nar and Jannah. Any more questions before we? Yes.
So you mentioned how once the sun rises from the west, there's no Tawbah accepted. Is there any other events like the coming of the Dabba?
Yeah, some say so. Like we said previously, that the signs of the Day of Judgment, subhanAllah, it's as if you have a pearl necklace and you cut the pearls and you see how they fall. You can't really tell exactly which one's falling first or which one's coming. So it's just like a rough estimate that the scholars put together of the order. So some say, yeah, if it's the sun coming first, then obviously then when the dab comes, they won't be accepted either. And some say with the coming of the dab also, or the smoke, or the but the clear hadith is that it's the sun. Wallahu a'lam. What's that? As long as you're a believer, yes. It just says that it's too late to become a believer or too late to make tawbah at that time, because basically khalas, at that time the whole cosmic system is being changed. So it's obvious to anybody that's alive at that time that there's Allah, that there's a Yawm al-Qiyamah, that there's something happening. Right, so to believe then is redundant, so it should be the test of Iman and belief is to believe in something that we don't see right now. Like we don't see Allah, we didn't see Jannah or Nar or the angels, but we still believe in our hearts, right? That's the test. We still make tawbah, we still try to be practicing Muslims. But once these signs happen, khalas, it's pretty much too late. And there's lots of ayat. In the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك والآخرة هم يوقنون. Right, so the غيب, and that's a major ayat that shows the belief of the unseen for the believers. The description of the believers believing in the unseen. Yes.
What was the purpose of the beast?
The purpose of the beast is to mark humanity, so according to some, he will mark and write who is a believer and who is a disbeliever, and according to others, it's just that he will mark the believers in terms of like kind of like a branding that you're kafir, like it's kind of insult to the. Yeah.
People can't do anything about it.
I mean, something that's like looks like a beast and can go basically like the speed of light or something. I don't know. You just do what are you gonna do? If you're Muslim, you could be like, Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. What's that? Afia? Kind of like asking Allah for protection or health or like freedom from any type of affliction. Nas'Allah al-afiyah. We ask Allah for afiyah. Al-afu wal-afiyah, yeah. Ad-dunya wal-akhirah. Yeah, that's a good dua, subhanAllah. So, forgiveness and protection basically, or freedom from tribulation. The scholars say that we shouldn't hope to be around at that time because it's such a big tribulation. But I think like if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us thabat to be a companion would be, I think, pretty cool, to see ʿIsa ﷺ or see Mahdi or something like that. But we ask Allah to keep us firm upon our faith, inshallah, not to give us trials that we cannot bear. Yeah.